Welcome into our overtime segment here at SportsSource.tv. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. We have Chuck Cavaleris down there, Josh Ward right here, and Bob Hodge right there. And I'm right here. Behind a sign that says Blue Smoke Cigar, and they always bring the overtime segment to you. They are the Knoxville Cigar Club that you need to be a member of if you enjoy a good cigar. And I had one last night. Somebody gave me, see what you think of this, somebody very nice, gave me a victory cigar for the Super Bowl. Smoked this after the victory. I smoked it last night. I'm not letting that thing sit as bad karma during the game. Are you kidding me? They'll lose. So I had to smoke it. It still might throw off the Super Bowl. I appreciate the gesture, but you cost me a Super Bowl. Anyway, if you're looking to hand out cigars, smoke cigars, enjoy cigars, the place to do it is Blue Smoke Cigar. You can sign up for a membership, and then you get a locker. You get exclusive access to their club area, which is leather seating, HD TV sets. They've got card room, golf simulator, private locker. You get 15% off their huge selection of cigars. You can get a 10% discount at a liquor store, McScrooge's Wine and Liquor with that. So, and then you go there, get 10% off, bring your booze back and put it in the private locker. All's good at Blue Smoke Cigar. That's where you should check it out. If you're like me and you enjoy a cigar on occasion, head down to Blue Smoke Cigar. Good people. Really good folks, have been doing it a long, long time with Smokin' Joe's, who's been on my show. With the exception of the first year, they're my oldest client. They've been with us longer than anybody, all but one of our 15 years. And so Mike Hicks and those crew, good people. If you like this show and you like a cigar, go support them. All right, guys, I'm going to give you a long soliloquy and then let you talk. The state of football, I thought, Super Bowl Sunday, a good time to discuss it. There's some stuff in the news. We could go with that. From a pro standpoint, there's been a huge backlash against the NFL ever since the president decided to attack the league over people protesting the national anthem. There's a couple of people who are running for governor in the state who kind of put that out on Twitter Sunday morning. It's like, well, we should all stand for a national anthem since the NFL is against America. The reality is there were only 7 people that were kneeling the day that the president decided to get into it. But still, there has been a huge backlash against the league for that, whether it's just a little overblown, whatever, they're getting a backlash. Also, TV ratings have dropped for 2 straight years. But for perspective, Pro Bowl just outdrew several major bowl games this year, and Fox just paid $550 million for the Thursday night package. So ratings have dropped, but a new study came out and was released a couple weeks ago that showed that CTE is not just about hits to the head, which makes sense. It's not getting hit in the head. It's your brain sloshing around and hitting your skull, which means if you take a hit to the chest and you're going 20 miles an hour and you stop, doesn't matter if the hit wasn't to your head, your brain's still smashing around. So this study came out and says it's not just about head hits, it's all kinds of hits, which has more people worried about the sport. And finally, NFL Hall of Famers Nick Bonaconte and Harry Carson came out this week and said, or last week, came out and they're part of a movement to get parents to stop letting their kids play tackle football before high school. They pointed out that there are a number of all-time greats that didn't. Walter Payton didn't play before high school. Jim Brown didn't play before high school. Tom Brady didn't play before high school. Drew Brees didn't play before high school. He's not going to let his kids play tackle football before high school, and he has gone out and started his own flag football league, which he says is his way of saving the sport. So it will be a transition into high school tackle football, play flag football, then go into that. All that swirling around. Is football in trouble? And let me just throw this last thing in. 50 years ago, the #1 sport in this country was baseball. 100 years ago, the #1 sports in this country were boxing and horse racing. Things can change. Exactly. So I'm putting that out there.
Yes.
But all this stuff swirling, do you think football as a sport is in serious trouble? Gentlemen, have at it.
Yes, I do. And it's for a lot of the reasons that you just went over, John. And it's to me, it's only going to get worse as you have more of these pro football stars from the 60s and 70s, and they come out like Nick Bonaconte did. I mean, the interview they showed with him would almost bring you to tears, looking at how he's become. And one last thing I would say when I throw it out there is the NBA. The NBA, with their exorbitant salaries, far less chance of a serious injury. There's talk that more and more athletes are looking at that as the sport to play as opposed to the risk you take with football.
Well, and as soccer continuing 5 years ago, soccer didn't have national coverage on. I mean, you got a German league that airs on Fox Network in the United States now every week. I think that's another one where people are going, wait a second. I got Drew Brees saying, don't let my kid play tackle football, but little Timmy is now watching this German soccer league where somebody just signed a contract for $500 million.
Yes.
Timmy, go out there and kick the ball around. Other sports are a reality, and some of them getting more coverage. Another thing with the coverage thing, you make a great point. What happens when we see, and God forbid, I'm just going to throw out random names. What about Peyton Manning, Tom Brady start to develop these kind of things moving forward? It's now in a media society. Everyone and their brother didn't know Nick Bonicani when he played. Now with Twitter and the oversaturation, every game on TV, you're going to have a lot more. You have more connection with more players now than you did 40 years ago. So as these guys age, I think it's going to be more people that you recognize and know, not just guys. Dolphins fans know Bonicani.
Right.
If you didn't watch the Dolphins, you didn't know Nick Bonicani as well as you did Terry Bradshaw, who was always on TV, for example. So I'm getting at, now that you've got all these games on TV, you're going to get more coverage of it moving forward. Guys.
I'm going to go with football's in serious trouble for slightly different reasons. I think part of the problem with football is the men are bigger, the men are faster, the men are stronger, the field is the same size. And I think
smaller.
Excuse me?
And the padding
the padding is smaller. And I think when you put that all together, it's hard. Go back and watch highlights from the 50s and 60s of guys, and you don't see the speed. At one time, Calvin Johnson would have been a defensive end.
Right.
Now he's a wide receiver. You didn't see that kind of speed. You didn't see the kind of collisions. Now, I disagree with not letting kids play football before high school because both of my kids played football before high school. I played football before high school. I think that part of it is a little overblown. But at the same time, I do think that just the constant. My youngest son decided he didn't want to play college football and had the opportunity. My bank account still hurts. And he said, I've played since I was 5. I've never been seriously hurt. I'm just done with it. Okay.
Don't want to push it. Yeah.
So I think, the injury thing, even if you go beyond the head injuries and just go to the injuries. Earl Campbell, famous for not being able to hardly walk because of his legs. Jim Otto, a player back from probably me and Chuck are about the only ones that remember Jim Otto.
00.
Could not walk when he was an older man because of football. So it goes beyond that, but I think all that stuff adds up. Yes, it's got a problem.
And I'll just speak to what you're talking about and how the game's changed. It was made for players who were this big.
Yeah.
It was smaller guys, but also, to put that in Tennessee terms, Doug Atkins is regarded as one of the greatest pass rushers of all time because Doug Atkins would look like an average defensive end now.
Yes, he was a freak of his time.
He played in the day when he was a freak. Now he'd be an average defensive end.
Yes.
He wouldn't be a freak anymore.
Tennessee's national championship team started a guard that weighed 172 pounds. You think he's going to play now?
The 51 team, yeah.
The 51
not the
team,
98.
excuse me, not the 98 team. But do you think he's going to play now? No, there's no way.
Although you can go back even just 20 years ago, look at the size of college football lines and then compare it to the size of linemen today. It's changed just in 20 years. Josh.
Yeah, it's very common to see recruits show up on campus and you can find a 310, 325-pound lineman. Trey Smith is one of the more recent ones. His talent also came with that size, but guys are just, Bob's right, they're bigger, faster, stronger. I would say, to what John said earlier, in 2028, is the sport of football in serious trouble? I don't think so, but I can't make any promises about 2058 or 2068, and that's what I think a lot of these conversations are. If Drew Brees is talking about trying to save the sport, I think he's trying to talk about saving it for his grandchildren, maybe for it still to be so popular for them to go play, and maybe if you go flag football or whatever you might do, non-tackle football before high school, maybe that is to get parents to let their kids play more, and that's a big part of saving the sport, is if kids play more, then kids are going to be more interested in the sport. Like kids watching soccer, if they watch when they're 5, 6, 7 years old, they're going to be more interested as they grow up. So a lot of it is about getting their interest at a young age.
One of the funny things about letting your kids play football when they're little is I coached Devin Young, probably the best football player I ever coached, at least in the top 2 or 3 of them. Well, he is the best, and then there's 2 other guys that are pretty close. Letting other kids play with Devin probably was the mistake that everybody made. He was so much better as an 8, 9, 10-year-old. He could hit you harder than the other 8 or 9, 10-year-olds. And so what do you do when you put the average kid out there who's never going to play in the NFL, who's never going to play at UT, who may not even play in high school, and then you got a guy who is just a superior athlete beating him up? What do you do about that?
Well, and you're talking about Devin Young, too, who wound up being a kind of a scat back.
But when he was a kid, he was. I mean, down at John Tarleton Field, he was the guy for years.
And I think I think Nick Montacani, it's one of the points he made, how important it is in the younger ages for the equipment to be properly fitted. That's one of his big things, is that sometimes it's not that good, sometimes it's either hand-me-down, sometimes it is good. But it's really crucial to have the equipment and especially the helmets properly fitted.
Which I will say, that having them properly fitted is important. I do think that everybody right now is, oh, this special helmet, it's got 2 holes here, so to protect you against concussions. No, because unless you create a way to create padding between your brain and the skull, when your head stops, doesn't matter if it's banging the helmet, the brain is banging in the skull. That's where your concussion comes from. So the idea, all these people are sinking money into these helmets. This design is better than this design. I don't know. It's a little like the concussion water that Russell Wilson and Tom Brady have talked about. Yeah, that ain't gonna help you. That's nonsense. Concussion.
No, unless you can stick it in your brain for
it doesn't hurt. Properly fitting them is of course important. Everybody comes up with the new designs. You could have put any kind of helmet you wanted on Dale Earnhardt. You go from 200 miles an hour to 0 miles an hour. There's nothing to stop your brain from going into the skull.
The last thing I would say, John, is the implementation of the protocol and you use. Perfect example. The Texans in an NFL game had a quarterback clearly had a concussion.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He stays in the game. The coach on the sideline is like, well, my viewpoint, I couldn't see it. You have to have rules and procedures that are not only in place but are enforced.
And here's the other thing too.
Cam Newton didn't come out of that playoff game. What happens if Nick Foles or Tom Brady today gets his bell rung? Mm-hmm. He can stand up, but they get up and they do a little bit of that.
I don't worry.
Do you think the NFL, though, our procedure is this? Do you think the NFL says, okay, it's the NFL, take Tom Brady out, we're going to put him in concussion?
They don't want Brian Hoyer in the game.
I mean, I just wonder if they're willing to do that on the biggest stage with the biggest players.
I don't worry about the NFL and that as much as I do the 160-something high schools in Tennessee, and you go through how good are their concussion protocols.
Yeah.
Not picking on any school.
No,
I'll say Powell since that's where I graduated from.
Point.
But how good is the concussion protocol at Powell? Maybe the best in the United States. I don't know, but that's where
just
I
an
went to
example.
school.
Yeah.
Okay, you do that time after time after time, high school after high school after high school, with kids who generally want to keep playing, who want to keep playing, and I think that's a bigger problem. The NFL, Cam Newton, Brian Hoyer, somebody plays a few extra downs because of concussion. Okay, everybody's going to see that. In the high school level, that goes totally undetected.
All of our VFLs, we talked about it at one time this week. Everybody was on the set off air. All said, well, yeah, you try and cover it. You don't want to come out of the game.
Right.
You know your bell's rung. You don't know where you are, but you want to stay in the game. That's part of it is you got to get past the player, and the player's going to try and cover it up. So you got to have an independent spotter who sees the right things, or a coach who says, I care more about my player than this game-winning drive. So, and then you got to get, if you have all that, you still got to get a player who says, no, I'm fine. You got to get past that. The reason I think the sport could be in trouble is you now actively have people campaigning against the league in particular, the NFL, which is the top, most visible part of football. But you have 2 groups. And what's interesting is, I would think, one of this group is the one that would have fought the other, and now they're both at the NFL. There's been a move, a lot of people are saying, well, they've taken all the hits out of football, they're making it a pansy league. You used to be able to kill a guy. Why can't you kill a guy anymore? And now those same people are the ones saying, you're not kneeling for the national. I think a lot of those same people. It seems like the same, well, if you want to go to the president, he says it is a mamby-pamby league. Why don't they hit more? And he's also the same one who's attacking it for not kneeling for the national, or for kneeling for the national anthem. Once you get media campaigns, once you get the president of the United States, once you get politicians trying to attack the #1 viewing platform that represents a sport, I think that hurts the sport. And I think you've got people who are saying it's mamby-pamby and too soft coming at you over here in this media cycle. Talk radio, talk TV, whatever. And then you got these people over here who are like, yeah, well, you're bringing politics into my sports. I don't want to know that anybody, I don't care if it was only 7. I don't want anybody kneeling, so I'm not going to watch anymore.
Well, see, but then you've got the reversal of that.
Peter King,
Peter King, probably the best-known football journalist in the country. At least he's in the top 5. Not last year in 17, but in 16. When the kneeling stuff started, there were media people at every NFL game that stood and it said, I stand with those who kneel. Okay, that's bringing a different side of politics into it. Hey, look, Peter King, tell me about the stinking football game.
I don't disagree with that.
Don't be standing for those who kneel. So I think there's two sides to that argument.
But if we're talking about somebody attacking the league and danger, that wouldn't, well,
no,
you're
but
saying
that turns off somebody because that's bringing politics in the lead.
Okay.
I'm reading your column about the NFL, and you say, I stand with those who kneel. So I don't want to read that.
And part of the XFL's message was they're going to stand, and we're going to get all the politics and the social views out of football. So fans who have been turned off, that is part of their early message is, come watch our game because you won't have that here. Yeah, and we'll see. Yeah.
Right. You know.
And they're also not going to have anybody who's got an arrest on them.
When I read Peter King, I want to hear about that big hit, knock somebody's head off. Hold it. That goes against everything we've been talking about.
No, but I mean, I wouldn't have considered that, but you're right, because I would look at it and say, but we're talking about what has football done to tick people off. But this is someone who covers football, and that way, even though it's not the league that's saying that, it was Peter King saying that. If I read football and I read this, it just falls into the mix, and I'm considering that.
Last thing I'll say about it, too, the other thing that's going to hurt the NFL is the thing that hurts all media, all TV shows, everything, is just you splinter your viewing audience to the point to where you don't get a guy watching an NFL football game who, maybe I'm kind of a fan, maybe I'm not a fan because I can go watch a movie on Netflix. And I think that is going to hurt the NFL too, as that continues to divide away with people. With
it's always going to be easier and easier to do something else. Watch something else, find more entertainment.
And Bob and I have talked about this before. I think people who walk away from the game and make a big point on walk away from the game, they never like the game as much as I do to begin with. I mean, a lot of these people, I don't watch anymore. Look, I don't care if all the Patriots knelt or if all the Patriots did something. My team, whatever if I'm a Packer fan and all the Packers went out and did something I didn't like, I would still say, well, that sucks. Kick it off, boys, because I grew up watching this. This is my Sunday. This is what I do.
And I think those Love Boat. I'm going back through some Vikings lore.
Oh, yeah.
But, okay,
but you stick with it,
that's embarrassing.
Wow, Aaron Hernandez was killing people. Sucked. But I'm still watching my team, Chuck, you didn't walk away when all the White House stuff came out with the Cowboys.
No.
You've never had any kind of scandals with the Raiders.
No.
Clean as a whistle. Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. Hey, by the way, follow this guy right here on Wednesday for signing day. Sports Radio, WNML, Josh Ward, and the team over there, Jimmy Himes. All of them going to be morning, noon, and night. I'm sure you guys will be covering it like crazy. Check them out. Don't forget to check out the guys here at Channel 6. They will be here Wednesday. Marshall Hughes and his team, the 6 Sports team, will have it covered for you. And then next Sunday, we're going to talk Tennessee basketball, of course, and we're also going to wrap up recruiting in new and fancy ways. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. See you next week.